I want to speak to something today that I fear that it may ruffle some feathers, but I feel like it's something that may help some people too. So I'm going to briefly tackle this issue. And if you've seen the title, is that we don't like the truth. Truth doesn't sell on this online business world, and I will explain in a little bit why I say that. If you're new here, welcome. I am Doreca Delbridge, and I am an occupational psychologist from msdorylinda.com. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome again. And if you have just seen my previous video, if not, I'll make sure that I tag up here. I did talk a little bit about the new project that I'm working on and the recent search that I was doing to see what are people really interested in, what are people searching for when they are embarking upon the online entrepreneurship, online content creation, online course creation. And there was never ending need to understand how to create something. And I know that's a very natural thing to search when you don't know anything, right? It's like many of us are maybe now considering entrepreneurship. Maybe you're watching this because you have gone into entrepreneurship in the last couple of years. The way things have changed in the world has opened up opportunities for so many people to come into the entrepreneurship world. And one of the ways in which people share their passions is through programs or course or membership that they start to share their passion, their interest, their knowledge with others. That's something I've always advocated for. Now, the reason I say truth doesn't sell in this business is because most of the time, the people that entice us into this world, I hope that's not the case for you, but let me know if you have come across this in your experience. The headlines you see, I don't know if you're scrolling Facebook and you see the headlines in the ad, I did a 6-figure launch, I did a 7-figure launch. Right now, 6 figures is so yesterday, right? Nobody's now talking about 6 figures because that's no longer interesting. It's the 7 figures now, and I am going to 8 figures. And I'm not saying people don't do those numbers, but I'm saying those are the things that we become so normalized with, those numbers. I did the launch and I did a 7-figure launch. I did a launch and it was high 6 figures. And if you've come in and you're like, I'm new to this, but they tell you just have to pre-sell the thing, do a big launch, and there are so many people who can actually help you do a launch. And maybe you've done a launch and you've done a 5-figure, 6-figure launch and you're like, yes, it's great stuff. And then there doesn't seem to be a lot of content out there, or at least maybe not the ones that I have seen a lot in just my recent search, where there is a talk about what those numbers mean in terms of profit. So when you see people say, this is 6 figures, this is 7-figure, right? It's impressive numbers, but that's revenue. People have to, especially if you're doing this in a big way, maybe you had joint ventures that you have to pay people. Maybe you had ads, which you had to pay for, right? Maybe you had paid a coach, which you have to pay for. There's so many elements that we don't get to know about when people talk about those numbers. And this is not to take away from anybody. Please don't misunderstand. But I feel like when we see those numbers and we're not really aware or don't know so much about what is happening behind the scenes to make any of that possible, it's very easy to come into the online world thinking, I can just build it, people are going to come and it's going to happen. And it's great if that happens for you. What I really want to speak to is when that doesn't happen and then you equate that to meaning it's a failure. Because you can tend to have feelings of disappointment when you feel like, I launched a thing and I only had a handful of people. And I know I have felt this myself. And even today, we were talking about this very thing in a group membership that I belong to, in a sense of how we can get really sucked into the hype, right? Everybody keeps talking about these big numbers and this amazing, it's like a big show. And we do our own party and it looks like it's just 2 people that turned up. We're like, oh, this sucks, right? It can feel like that. Let me know if that's been your experience. So that can feel as if the world of online entrepreneurship, the world of course creation is this big party every day, right? It's almost like you've gone to somebody's wedding and you're thinking, gosh, this must be how they live every day, this lavishness and, 10-course meal and being served and the decoration, right? And we know wedding is not a marriage, let's say, right? The excitement of a wedding is not a marriage. If you've been in a, committed relationship or been married, you know what I'm talking about, that those events are not a reality of everyday living. So take launches as if that's the wedding. People plan for it months and months, and you roll out the red carpet and everything is just like amazing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to bask in this amazing experience. But that's not a reality. And sometimes I feel like, and I don't know if people do this intentionally or not, I feel like if you sell people the idea of, yeah, weddings are great, but that's not marriage, relationship, or hard work. Imagine a sales page that goes like, I can help you do the really hard work and having the marriage. Some people who have already understood that, a wedding is not a marriage will buy into that. But there will be very few people. But if you promise them you're going to have the feeling you had on your wedding day of the event and everything else, you get a lot more people swiping. So I feel like part of it is we have to almost check ourselves, people who are receiving this thing and we're getting excited and we're swiping the idea, right? We want the event, but we don't want the reality, right? Because I feel like people only sell what people want to buy. And most of the time we want to buy the hype because we want to believe every day we're going to have a big wedding of an idea, right, in our businesses, when really every day is more of like a marriage in a business. It's not a big hype, it's not a big event, nor does it have the delivery sometimes of the income of the big event, unless you have really dialed that in. You've built in maybe ads, you've built in systems, people are selling with you, they're joint ventures, like you've built the whole machine. That is very possible for it to be continuous. But when you are a one woman, one man show, or maybe a small team and trying to figure stuff out, yeah, the big launches are exciting. But the thing that frustrates me is that there can be this idea of that's how the marriage of the business is like. And it's just not true. And part of it, I feel like we are to blame. We as the consumers of that crap, excuse my French, we want the hype. We want to be sold the hype because we don't want to be sold that it's hard work. We don't want to hear that. We just want to hear it's short, 2-3 steps. You just do that, you plug it in and it works, I feel tempted to offer that. I feel tempted to say, do 2 things and the rest of the things will happen. And I so appreciate people like, this is why I always advocate for someone like Tad Haggrave, because I think he calls his marketing like slow marketing. And I'm like, I love it. It's the reality. And maybe there are people like myself who resonate. I don't know if you resonate with that type of like reality. Let me know down in the comment section if that resonates with you. Or if like me, you also get sucked into a little bit, how can I speed this up? Because I am like that too. I always have this conflicting fight within myself of I want to speed up, I want to speed up, I want to speed up. I feel that push within myself always. Like this ambition to just run all the time. But there's also this still voice in me that always says, slow down, slow down, slow down. And every time I have slowed down, I have realized that has helped me to speed up. So most of the time, even when I talk to people about this new project I'm doing with helping more online content creators use YouTube organic traffic, is to realize if you're already in 10 different places and you have not mastered one single platform, chances are you have spread yourself so thin unless you have a team and you have distributed within your team for each person to master every single platform. But if you are a 1-person band or 2-person band, mastering every single platform is really not possible because we only have limited time in a day. Unless you are like, okay, you correct me if you have mastered it. Please let me know down in the comment section. But I do find most of us, we try to do that. We try to strive for that kind of setup and we find ourselves just overwhelmed. We don't want the truth that things take time. We don't want the truth that we have to be willing to build something and maybe we have to let go of some things. I had to do that. I had to let go of so many other things and I chose YouTube to be my thing to focus on in order to speed it up. And did I get really good results? Yes, I really did get really good results. But I think that was helped by the fact that I slowed down to speed up. Now, most of the time when we see this big show of people that we follow that they put at a big show and they have amazing results and we see them everywhere, we believe that's how we gotta be too. We gotta be everywhere or nobody's gonna buy our stuff. Or we're not going to have a steady stream of customers and clients. And unless you have mastered some superpower that you've plugged into that the rest of us don't know yet, and please let us know in the comment section below, and you are mostly you, maybe you have an assistant and maybe a small team, chances are you're going to do better when you focus on a fewer things and do them really, really well. And that sometimes means having the patience and the discipline of stripping things down, doing them well, and hammering on them until they become true. And let go of this idea of, if you had a big launch and you were excited, great. Please don't be disappointed by the marriage of the business. It was okay to have a big wedding, but here's the reality, which we don't like. We like the idea of every day is a party. The reality is we have to be willing to build something that can be sustained long term, that is healthy. This marriage with our businesses have to be a healthy one that can be sustained long term. And if that is you, that speaks to you, then you're speaking my language. And if you want to find out more about this new program I'm putting out, by the time this comes out, I believe it will be in the midst of the launch, because I'm launching this between February 14th to March 14th, and it will be a beta group, and it's designed for people like yourself. If you're an online entrepreneur, you're an online content creator, an online course creator. If you have a YouTube channel, you've posted a few things, but maybe you didn't really utilize it as you could, and you know the power of YouTube, and you have an offer that is a killer offer that you're like, dang, if more people actually knew about this, this will be amazing. The program is designed to help you to make a YouTube a lead magnet for you, to turn your channel to make a lead magnet. And I don't mean this in like a tricky way, but to really be able to present yourself in a way that you can connect on a deeper level with. And this is not meant to be like a tricky thing, so that they can resonate with what it is that you have to offer and quickly build that trust and know and like factor, which we all need in order to feel like we're having a genuine exchange with the people that we want to work with. And I know that this, from a personal experience and from an occupational psychology standpoint, how effective that approach is. And that's what I try to teach in this program. And with this new group, it will be a beta group, so it will be only a few people. But I'm really excited to start it. I'm already now working with somebody who wanted to come even pre-beta. I don't even know, what would you call it? She came in pre-beta group. She is already working with me right now because she was ready to jump in, and I started working with her while I'm putting together. So I'm recording this. It's not open yet, but I'm sure by the time this is published on my YouTube, probably most likely it will be open. And if it isn't yet, well, look down below anyway, because I'll be linking things in there for you to be part of the group, if that makes sense to you. Because if you are tired of all this running around and the hype, you know, if you bought into the hype and you're like, dang, yeah, the wedding was wonderful, now it's the marriage. How do I make this marriage sustainable long term and it makes sense? And how do I make it in a healthy way, right? We want to have a way that's sustainable to get clients, not to be burning ourselves to the ground because we're trying to be on every single platform. That isn't effective. If YouTube is yours, if you're like, I am so understanding the power of YouTube, and I think the thing that scares most of us of why we don't really choose YouTube in the first place, and I know I really struggled in the beginning, it's not so much even, I've heard people say it's the time commitment. Let me know down below if that's been the first objection that comes to your mind. I could do YouTube if I had the time, right? And yes and no, I really get where you're coming from. If you are everywhere, yes, it does help to create that, just the space with time. But more so important, I think, is the space with the energy that we have to create, the emotional space to be vulnerable, to share with others, to connect in this way. It does require a deeper level of being that we don't have to really show up in the same way in any other platform. How many times do we get discouraged because we go like, oh, did you see the Kardashians' Instagram account? How it's popping. I'm so intimidated. I'm not going to go on Instagram. No, people start Instagram's account every single day, even though there are so many other better Instagram accounts. But that will probably be most people's objection of why they don't post more often on their YouTube account. They say, I just don't feel like I do well there. I don't feel like I show up well. I don't think my videos are good enough. I'm like, your post ain't good enough either on Instagram, but you're posting. So there is something about this vulnerability of being on camera that we have to be willing to look at and not just brush it with a, big stroke of, I just don't have the time, and really examine what is the fear that's really holding me back to connect on a much deeper level. I still have things that I posted 2 years ago that are getting, I have been more than 2 years, almost 3 years this year on YouTube, that are still getting views. You're not going to get that on any other platform. And I'm not here to sell you on YouTube. I'm just saying these are the things we have to examine to really get a feel of, is it true? What the objection that is coming up. So if that resonates with you, do consider joining the beta group. I'll make sure to put the details in the description box down below. And this will probably be the most smallest group I will ever have. And so therefore the most attentive time I could ever devote to it. And the lowest price I will ever have, as you always know. If you're a regular here, you know that I always start with beta groups because I like to build my products and my programs with people in mind. One thing I want you to take away from today's video is that, remember, launches are like weddings. They're big, they're exciting, they're great, but they're not everyday life. Marriage with your business, that's reality. Right? So don't buy into the hype. When you see people do these big things, right? Let's embrace the truth. When we see people do these big numbers, let's celebrate them, be great with them, but just let's be aware that that's revenue and it's not profit. And we never understand the mechanics and the background of somebody else's thing. So don't be discouraged. Don't be like, oh dang, mine is not working in the same way. But if you want to approach this in a more realistic way of making this sustainable for you, details are down below. All right. Hope that makes sense. Hopefully that was helpful to you and you're not picking up stones to throw at me right now because I told you that you don't like the truth. I don't like the truth either, but it's the reality. The quicker we can embrace it, the more we can know how to position ourselves. And I'll make sure that I link videos right here that will probably be really helpful in you looking at business models in a real sense and examining how they actually fit in your life in a true sense. So that is, your life is more sustainable, your business life is more sustainable. And remember, as we will say on this channel, focus on being than doing. And I'll see you in the next one.